chairman of Citizens Crime Watch. He's one of the complainants against Speaker Romualdez and other House leaders over the alleged irregularities in the 2025 national budget. Good morning, attorney. Thanks for making time for Head Start.
Yes, good morning, Ma'am Katrina. It's always a pleasure, and I'm an early bird anyway, so why not?
All right, attorney, let's begin the discussion with you answering the question on how do you actually convince your critics, especially in the House of Representatives, that this case filed against several House leaders is not just a retaliatory measure against Vice President Sara Duterte, who has been impeached by that chamber. How do you convince the public that this is not just some sort of a tit for tat?
Well, I can only speak for myself, of course, because in my capacity as national chairman of the Citizens Crime Watch, our organization has had no association with Vice President Sara Duterte. I personally have not met her at any time. Of course, I know her as the Vice President. I have supported her father, the former president, when he ran for president and during the time that he was president. But the Citizens Crime Watch is a purely non-partisan organization. In fact, during the time of Duterte, we have sued a cabinet member of Mr. Duterte, Secretary Ramon Lopez. We have sued Secretary Garin. We have sued former Commissioner Guanzon, who is not a politician, at least not at the time that we filed cases against her. And all of these cases are now in court. So that is really the advocacy of the Citizens Crime Watch, which is anti-crime and anti-corruption.
Attorney, why are the respondents in your petition limited to House leaders when in fact even senators signed that committee report with alleged blanks?
For one, since most of the information were gotten from former Speaker Bebot Alvarez, who is knowledgeable about these things, he relayed to us that when an appropriations bill is finally passed by the bicameral committee, it is transmitted to the House of Origin, meaning the House of Representatives, this being an appropriations bill. And under the Constitution, all appropriations bills are supposed to emanate from the House of Representatives. So it was under the control of the House, so we were informed, when the GAA, when the approved bicameral bill was transmitted as an enrolled bill to Malacanang. And so any insertions made must have been made during the time that the bill was in the custody and under the control of the House of Representatives. That's why it was those who, under the rules of the House and under the law, are supposed to have handled the bill when it became an enrolled bill that we filed suit against, because they are the only ones who could have done the acts complained of.
That bill was tackled during a closed-door bicameral conference committee, just like any other budget bill by the end of the year. Therefore, senators must have also had some inputs in that signed document. Again, why aren't senators being held accountable and just House leaders?
We have to recall the comments of Senator Coco Pimentel to show that even the Senate did not have any inputs. If we recall, Senator Coco Pimentel was complaining that even he as a senator was unable to get the details of the bill being approved from the technical working group. So that having been said, it was only in the House that the bill was finalized and made into an enrolled bill. So that is why absent any showing that the Senate had any participation, not in the bill itself, mind you, and not in the ratification of the bill by the bicameral committee, but in the insertions made by people, either the respondents in this case or people under their control, their direct control, then of course we cannot file any cases against those.
All right, we will have to leave it at that for now and just wait and see what will happen next as the case develops. But how long do you hope for the Ombudsman to suspend the 3 House leaders that you mentioned in your complaint?
All of this.
Because we have to look at the nature of preventive suspension. Preventive suspension is not a penalty. The purpose, as we have stated in our motion, and as is stated in numerous jurisprudence before us, is that it is to prevent people from tampering with the evidence, influencing or intimidating witnesses, etc. And it is not unprecedented. Many governors and mayors have been preventively suspended. And we are dealing here with the people who are among the most powerful in the country. So they have custody of the documents, they have control and supervision over the entire staff of the House of Representatives, and even as shown by the monolithic way by which the House has been acting under the leadership of Speaker Romualdez, that they have the wherewithal to impose almost total control over anything with respect to the House of Representatives. That is scary, and that is why we are trying to prevent any tampering of the evidence or influencing of witnesses or any other concealment of evidence. We're not saying that we will do it, but under the law, there is really this mechanism to prevent such an eventuality.
Sir, speaking of evidence, since you already mentioned it, the former speaker, Davao del Norte Representative Pantaleon Alvarez, alleges that 241 billion pesos was inserted into the 2025 enrolled GAB, General Appropriations Bill. What evidence does your camp hold for you to prove that 241 billion pesos was indeed illegally inserted into the national budget?
As stated in our complaint affidavit, we have copies of the bill as approved by both houses. And when a bill is already approved by the bicameral committee, the only role of the technical working group would be to make corrections pertaining to minor matters such as typographical errors, errors in format, or simple computation. However, in this case, the technical working group under the control of the House leadership went beyond that and exercised legislative powers where they had none, because the certain approved items had zero appropriations. But suddenly, when it reached Malacanang, meaning the General Appropriations Bill to be signed into law by the President, suddenly all these blanks had amounts, and the total amount, the total sums inserted, a total 241 billion. So to us, that is clear and compelling evidence. We will leave it to the courts to see if that will convict. But for purposes of preventive suspension, to us, that is already strong and convincing evidence, at least for this stage of the proceedings.
Attorney, based on your analysis of the data and the documents, what is the common denominator in these allegedly inserted items into the national budget?
The common denominator is that these are soft projects, meaning to say these are projects that are very difficult to quantify in terms of money. This pertain to soil inputs, fertilizers. Remember the fertilizer fund scam when there was a big uproar? It's the same thing happening here. So farm inputs, liquid fertilizers, other matters which pertain to agriculture. This is only as far as the Department of Agriculture is concerned. So these are obviously, according to Speaker Bebot Alvarez, the usual suspects, so to speak, when there are insertions, and these insertions are placed on expenditures that are difficult to monitor and easy to manipulate.
Are you saying that the allegedly inserted funds is a possible precursor to another fund scam?
Yes, very possible. Well, the mere fact that these amounts were inserted is already a scandal or a scam, so to speak, because that is not what was approved by the representatives of the people in both chambers, meaning the House of Representatives and the Senate. So that in itself is a big scam already. And to the tune of 241 billion.
Which